911, what is the location of your emergency?
4748 France Court.
Is this a police or medical?
My boyfriend is dead.
Okay, send the line for the fire department. Do not hang up.
Fire rescue. Tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I put him in a case and we were playing. Like kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep, and I woke up, and he was dead in the suitcase, so I don't know what happened.
Okay, is he hanging from somewhere or what, ma'am?
No, I pulled him out of the suitcase.
He was in a suitcase?
Yes, and I fell asleep.
Right, is he breathing?
No.
I need you to get him on the floor, flat on his back for me, okay?
I did. I tried giving him CPR.
Yeah, okay. Okay, listen to me. Lay him flat on his... Okay, ma'am, listen to me. I want you to lay him flat on his back for me on the floor.
I did.
Okay,
he's stiff and purple.
Okay, ma'am, that's fine. We're still going to do compressions on him, okay? Place the heel of your hand on his breastbone, right in the center of the chest.
Yes.
Put your other hand on top of that hand.
Just by looking at him, you can tell.
Okay.
Please! Okay, he just gurgled.
Okay, listen to me. Place the heel of your hand right between his chest, right between his breastbones.
Yes.
Put your other hand on top of that hand.
Yes,
we want to pump his sesame hard and fast, twice per second. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Who for now?
Oh, right there.
She is laughing. That's the first thing you need to understand about this story. Not the crime scene, not the courtroom, not the verdict. She is laughing.
You can't go back inside. What's going on? Who is he to you? Boyfriend?
Yes, for like 3.5 years.
What happened?
He and I, we drank last night. We had a...
Can you pass this to the around to the FD guys? Stop. They need to sign that for sure.
They're with me, so they're not
Oh, they're not leaving? Okay.
I think I'll walk around.
No. Each of them has to, because this might be a real scene. So each of them has to put their name in.
Normally I just put everybody.
Yeah, you call it
what's going on?
So
I just got here, so fill me in.
No problem. Like, he and I were putting a puzzle together. We've been doing some artwork together.
You are putting a puzzle together?
Yes, we have a puzzle that we started in there.
Okay.
We've been doing art, trying to take the stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we're drinking. We had a bottle of wine last night.
Okay. Fine.
So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right?
Okay.
So he gets in the suitcase, okay?
Who is this guy?
That's my ex-husband, my former husband.
How did he live here with you guys?
No, I called him over here.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So then he came over here.
Here, let's talk in private, okay?
I called you guys.
On the other side of a thin layer of fabric and zippers, a man is pressing his hands against the walls of a suitcase. He can't stretch his legs, he can barely draw a full breath. His voice is already hoarse, and he is calling her name. Sarah! I can't breathe, babe. And she laughs. She points her phone at the suitcase. She hits record, and she laughs. What you're about to hear is real. The video exists. The audio exists. A jury heard it, saw it, and deliberated for less than 2 hours. This is the story of Jorge Torres Jr., a 42-year-old man from Philadelphia who ended up in a suitcase on a February night in Winter Park, Florida, and never got out. This is the story of Sarah Boone, the woman who put him there, who filmed it, who went upstairs to sleep, and who, for 4 years, told anyone who would listen that it was just an accident. Welcome to Mind of Malice. I'm going to take you through every layer of this case, the relationship, the night, the video evidence, the interrogation, the circus of a legal battle, the trial, and finally the reckoning.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah. I can't fucking breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah. 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 Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Sarah.
Real ransom. Might want to get video for it extra. Because I got this.
Sarah.
Real ransom.
Sarah. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
Oh. That's what I feel like when you drink on me.
Sarah. I can't breathe, Sarah.
Yeah. You should probably shut the fuck. Shh.
By the end, you won't be asking whether she did it. You'll be asking something far more unsettling, and you'll be asking, how does a person get here? Jorge Torres Jr. was born on February 13th, 1978 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He grew up in a big family, his mother Blanca, his father Jorge Sr., 6 brothers, 3 sisters. Anyone who's grown up in a household like that knows the particular chaos of it. The noise, the arguments over nothing. The loyalty that runs so deep you can't explain it to someone who doesn't have it.
So, this morning we went to his autopsy, and we were informed of some injuries that he has. So he had some injuries to his left shoulder. He had a cut near his lip. He also had, on the left side of his forehead, he had basically bruising. And on his head and skull.
I have no idea.
As if something hit him.
I
considered
have not
force
touched him.
trauma.
Thoroughly confused because we had a good time sitting on the back porch having wine and smoking a couple of cigarettes, and then decided to go inside and literally paint, do puzzles, and play. I have not touched him. I have not touched him.
How would you get those injuries?
Tell me and we'll both know. He's notorious for running into the wall. I have no idea. We had a good day. It was a good day. I don't want to drink. I have to tend to Lucas. I have to take him to school. I have all this stuff to do. I can do 50 things at once and still know the 50 things more prior that I need to get done. As I don't want to drink. I can't get drunk. Number one, I do not want to get drunk. I don't like feeling out of control. I was so happy. It was such a good day. I kid you not. The weather was beautiful outside. No, I was not drunk.
Right.
I was not drunk. Nobody knew George better than I did. I say that I knew George better than himself. I helped him. I took care of him. I miss him a lot, and I didn't even sleep last night. I'm here now because I'm still trying to help him.
Yeah, we just don't, it's unexplainable how he got these injuries, and
I have no idea.
You were the only one with him.
Worked on the puzzle again, finished it, started at the top, paint, whatever. Okay, you want to play hide and seek? What he does is, okay, tag, you're it. So it's okay, we know. Okay, take off. That's what we did. The suitcase originally is in our closet, buried all the way to the back. I would never do that.
You would never zip them up in a suitcase?
We were actually this last game running out of places to hide.
Okay, so do you remember making any videos or maybe having any photos, videos that you remember doing on your phone on Sunday?
No.
No? To your recollection, no videos on Sunday?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So I have something that I want to show you that we found, and it was from your phone. Can you see it?
If you need to move it around, go ahead.
No, I don't remember that.
For everything you've done to me.
For everything you've done to me.
Your battery's about to die.
Shut it down.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you all understand who I am. Where,
Well, tell me.
I mean, I've always been a straight-A student. I am an outstanding mother to my son. I excel at everything. I would not do that.
You wouldn't lock somebody in a suitcase? No, it's just the way you said it.
You guys are scaring me.
Why?
Well, we just want you to watch this. This came from your phone. Don't you want to know what's on it?
Yes, please. Is it long? Because I don't know how much I can take.
No.
Do I have to watch this? It's that long?
2 minutes.
No.
For everything you've done to me. For everything you've done to me. Fuck you.
And this
Fuck
is,
you.
that's you, your voice.
Stupid. That's my name. Don't wear it up. Yeah, that's when you do it. You choke me.
I don't want to watch it, please.
Last time we talked to you, you had said that you put him in the suitcase, he had 2 fingers hanging out. And you
I
went to
flipped him
bed.
over. I flipped him over, and that's where it was.
How did it go from the back to the front?
I flipped it.
Okay.
My plan was not to go upstairs and go to sleep,
Well, that's what you did.
Yeah.
but not intentional though.
Why is he saying I can't breathe, and why is he pushing on it as if he can't get out? There's no
Okay.
hole. There's no fingers. I don't see his fingers. There's no hole. He's begging for you to let him out. You're laughing in the beginning, and then in the end it sounds kind of like a...
No, it's not malicious.
Well, saying fuck you.
It's not malicious.
You told me he was laughing, and
We were before.
The video, there's no
When we
laughing.
first got in there,
So it goes from funny to no longer funny,
but
and
I
you're
didn't.
the only one laughing.
But I didn't think that he was like panicky. Like
So pushing up on a suitcase saying, Sarah, Sarah, Sarah,
I can't
breathe. You're the only one laughing,
Okay.
and you're the only one saying derogatory comments. You know what's on that video now?
No.
You remember making that video?
Oh,
Why don't you remember making the video?
probably because we had been drinking.
But you weren't drunk.
No. My plan was not to go upstairs and go to sleep. It's the drinking. That's what it is. It's the drinking.
And this video explains itself. It really, truly does.
I'm leaving it like this. I did not intentionally do this. No malicious content or effort was towards this. No malicious.
The fuck you is very, very...
You don't talk to people
Obvious.
like that. That's not like a common, like,
Nope.
hey, Scott, fuck you.
There's no maliciousness towards
Okay.
that.
He's begging for his life. He's begging to get out. You go upstairs. You're now changing
Who's
your
lying
story.
about what?
You're now you're drunk.
Oh, I never said that I was drunk.
You blamed it on the alcohol. Alcohol does a lot to people.
Yes, but I never said I was drunk.
Okay.
Alright, do me a favor, stand up. I need you to turn around, face the wall. Put your hands behind your back. Do you have anything in your pockets that I should know about?
No.
By the time Jorge was in his 40s, he had moved down to Florida. He had 3 children, 2 daughters, Ana Victoria and Destiny Mia, and a son named Jorge Torres III. His brother Juan, who lived just 5 to 10 minutes away from Jorge in Florida, would speak to him on a weekly basis. They were close. The kind of close where you don't need a reason to call. You just do. Jorge's mother Blanca would say later, in a statement that broke a courtroom, every time he'd come here, he'd just stand at that wall and say, "Mom, I love you." And he'd look at his father and say, "Pop, you're my hero." His daughter called him a hidden gem. Taken away, she said, by evilness. His sister Victoria put it simply, Sarah has caused a lifetime of pain, a lifetime of horrible images, A lifetime of hearing my brother Jorge plead for his life. Something as simple as using a suitcase is so triggering now. I try not to close it all the way. That's who Jorge Torres was. A son, a father, a brother, a man whose family will never be able to look at a suitcase the same way again. But Jorge Torres was also not a saint. And in the interest of telling this story truthfully, that matters. Because the relationship he entered sometime around 2016 was not a simple one. It was volatile, painful, and dangerous, in ways that would eventually define how a courtroom tried to understand his death. Who was Sarah Boone? Sarah Boone was born on October 17, 1971, a Florida woman. At the time she met Jorge, she was in the middle of divorce proceedings from her ex-husband, Brian Boone, and had a child from that marriage. By all accounts from neighbors, she was personable, talkative, the kind of neighbor who would stop and chat when she was walking her dogs. One neighbor, Pearl Walker, would later say she sometimes noticed marks on Boone's neck or arm during those walks. Boone would talk about being abused. Walker listened. Another neighbor, Vincent Battaglia, would testify that he could hear Jorge and Sarah arguing through the walls of his home, almost daily. And here's the part that matters. When Jorge and Sarah met, when they hit it off, when the conversations were easy and the hours passed quickly, there was something real there. They had mutual interests, they became serious, they moved in together, and then the violence started. Between 2018 and 2020, the apartment at 4748 France Lane, Unit 3, in Winter Park, Florida, the home Jorge and Sarah shared, was visited by police more times than their neighbors could count. The records are clear. In July of 2018, both Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres were arrested on charges related to the domestic battery against each other. Here's how that night went according to the arrest documents. The couple had been out at a bar. A man approached Sarah and asked her for a cigarette. Jorge did not like that. He left. She followed. And by the time they got home, things had escalated into something physical. Sarah told police that Jorge had dragged her upstairs by her hair and kicked her in the right eye. Jorge told police that Sarah had placed both of her hands around his throat, pressing hard enough that he had trouble breathing, and that he'd had to kick her off of him to stop it. Both of them walked out of that night with charges. Sarah's charge, battery by strangulation, was ultimately dismissed. Jorge's was not. That was not the end. In 2019, Jorge Torres was arrested 3 more times on battery charges related to incidents with Sarah. One of the documented incidents. Boone told police that Torres had punched her in the left ear and the side of her head. There was a temporary protection order in place at the time. All 4 times Jorge was arrested for domestic battery against Sarah Boone. She bailed him out every single time. Her ex-husband Brian, who would later testify at her trial, knew about the relationship. He knew it was dangerous. And when Sarah called him on the morning of February 24th, 2020, to tell him that Jorge was dead, he told her to call 911. There's also something else in those phone records the jury would later see, texts between Sarah and Jorge. In one exchange, the prosecution put it on screen during trial, calling it exhibit after damning exhibit. Sarah had written to Jorge, "I'll get rid of him." The defense said it was taken out of context. The jury disagreed. According to Sarah Boone's own testimony, 5 hours of it on the witness stand, the day of February 23rd, 2020 started unremarkably. Jorge wanted to start the day with drinks. It was his day off from work. Sarah talked him into cleaning the apartment first. They swept, mopped, folded laundry, emptied the dishwasher. A sense of accomplishment, she called it. Then they relaxed. They went out, bought a single bottle of wine, came home, sat on the porch. As the evening went on, they decided to play hide and seek. Sarah ran upstairs and hid in the shower. Jorge was supposed to find her. He didn't, so she came back downstairs. And there was Jorge Torres, 5 feet 2 inches tall, weighing around 100 pounds, trying to fold himself into a blue suitcase sitting in the living room, trying to make himself flat so she couldn't see he was in there. We thought it was funny, Boone testified. We were joking that he was small enough to fit inside the suitcase. She zipped him up. 2 of his fingers poked through the zipper gap. She moved the suitcase around on its wheels, and then, according to Boone, the tone changed. She says they started arguing from inside and outside the suitcase, that Jorge began threatening her, that she became afraid of what he would do when he got out. That's her story. The phone tells a different one. The videos. When law enforcement arrived at the apartment on February 24th, Sarah Boone willingly handed over her phone. That is a detail worth sitting with. She handed it over because she had forgotten, in the fog of intoxication the night before, that she had recorded herself. Forensic investigators found 2 videos. The first video was recorded at 11:12 p.m. on the night of February 23rd. In it, Sarah Boone is laughing. The suitcase is on the floor of the living room, and from inside it, Jorge Torres can be heard saying, clearly, unmistakably, "I can't breathe." And then, "Sarah, I can't fucking breathe, seriously." He pushes against the fabric from the inside. You can see the suitcase move. Sarah Boone's response, captured on camera she was holding. "For everything you've done to me. Fucks you, stupid." And then, "That's what you do when you choke me." And then, "That's what I feel like when you cheat on me." She is not panicked. She is not conflicted. She is methodical in her cruelty. She knows exactly what she's saying, and she is recording it. 11 minutes pass. The second video begins at 11:23 p.m. The suitcase has been moved. It's now near the dining table, and it's been flipped onto its side. Jorge is still inside. His voice is more strained now. He calls her name. Sarah Boone replies, "That's my name, don't wear it out." He begs to be let out. She keeps recording. The prosecution's medical examiner would later explain to the jury exactly what was happening inside that suitcase over the course of the night. With each breath Jorge Torres took in, prosecutor Dave Cacciatore told the courtroom, standing next to the actual suitcase entered into evidence, "There was less oxygen in this box. Jorge Torres was murdered in this box." Jorge Torres was 5 feet 2 inches tall. He weighed 103 pounds. The prosecutor noted that fact in his opening statement, not by accident. It explained how a woman could physically zip another adult into a suitcase. He was small enough to fit. And that is precisely how she was able to do what she did, the baseball bat. There is one moment in Sarah Boone's testimony, one specific detail, that changed the texture of this entire case. At some point during the night, Jorge Torres managed to get his hand out of the suitcase, just one hand, through the gap in the zipper, reaching for something, reaching for air maybe, or just reaching. Sarah Boone picked up a baseball bat and she hit his hand. She testified to this herself on the stand in her own defense with her attorney standing next to her. For the split-second reaction that I had, she said, "I grabbed the baseball bat and was trying to poke his hand to go back in. Please don't break through, please." So I hit his hand. She demonstrated for the jury how she used the bat, pressing against the suitcase, pushing, until his hand went back inside. Her explanation, "My fear was he was going to break out of the suitcase." She was afraid, so she hit his hand with a bat to keep him from getting out. Then she went upstairs, and she went to sleep the morning after. Sarah Boone woke up around noon on February 24th, 2020. She looked around. Jorge wasn't in bed. Her first thought, she testified, was that he must be downstairs drinking or looking for jobs, or maybe he just left. And then she saw the suitcase. "I was aghast," she said on the stand. "I can't describe the feeling, terror to a certain degree." She called her ex-husband Brian first. He told her to call 911. She did. On the call, she told the dispatcher, "He's purple." She attempted CPR with instructions from the dispatcher. It didn't matter. By the time paramedics arrived, Jorge Torres Jr. was already gone. He had been in that suitcase for approximately 11 hours. Sarah Boone drove herself to the Orange County Sheriff's Office that afternoon. She agreed to a recorded interview with Detectives Scott Lowen and Chelsea Koopsel. She arrived looking, by all accounts, composed. The apartment had been arranged with puzzles and artwork displayed around the space. Investigators noted later that the scene had been somewhat curated. In the interrogation room, Boone laid out her version of events. Hide and seek, wine, suitcase, fell asleep. She didn't mean to. She thought he could get out. She didn't know. The detectives listened. Then they told her about the autopsy findings. The medical examiner had found a contusion on the neck, injuries to the left shoulder, blunt force trauma to the forehead and skull, a cut near the lip, and, critically, long nail scratches across the mid to upper back and neck. Boone had an explanation for all of it. Jorge, she said, was notorious for running into walls. He'd fallen off her son's bike before. He was clumsy. Then the detective showed her the videos. Something shifted. "I don't remember making those videos," Boone said. She blamed the wine. She said she didn't zip the suitcase all the way. She expected him to be able to get out on his own. She accused the detectives of trying to feed her a narrative. "He's begging for you to let him out, and you're laughing at the beginning, and then you're like, 'No,'" a detective said. Boone's response, "It was not intentional. I will put my hand on the Bible. It was not intentional." She described Torres's pleas in the video as the boy calling wolf. She said she didn't take it seriously because she had heard him say things like that before. And then, in the middle of this interrogation, with a man dead and evidence piling up on the table, Sarah Boone asked about her phone. When would she get it back? She also asked about a laptop, about Jorge's wedding and engagement rings, and she expressed concern about being placed in a holding cell because of a history of panic attacks. At 5:44 p.m. that evening, Sarah Boone was placed under arrest, charged with second-degree murder, held without bond. What followed the arrest of Sarah Boone was, and I don't say this lightly, one of the most chaotic pre-trial legal sagas in recent Florida court history. Over the next 4 years, Sarah Boone would cycle through 8 different attorneys. 8. 7 of them were court-appointed public defenders. One by one, they filed motions to withdraw from the case. The language in those withdrawal motions was striking in its consistency. Irreconcilable differences. Adversarial relationship. Cannot see eye to eye on the defense. One former attorney put it bluntly in court documents, "No attorney can satisfy her." The delays piled up. The original trial date, set for April 2023, was pushed back. Then July 2024, then pushed again. The COVID-19 pandemic contributed some of the delays. Hurricane Milton contributed others. But a significant portion of the delay was simply Sarah Boone refusing to cooperate with the people trying to defend her. Judge Michael Kranick had seen enough. He ruled that Boone had forfeited her right to court-appointed counsel, which meant Sarah Boone was now representing herself in a second-degree murder case. And then, on July 18, 2024, at a hearing where Boone appeared pro se, meaning without a lawyer, she submitted a letter to the court that included tucked inside it a hand-drawn advertisement for a lawyer. She had literally drawn an ad seeking legal representation and filed it with the court. The advertisement was reported on by every media outlet covering the case. It went viral in legal circles, and improbably, it worked. An attorney named James Owens saw it. Owens volunteered to step in as her 9th attorney. He met with prosecutors about a potential plea agreement, Boone would plead guilty to manslaughter, accept responsibility, and serve 15 years in prison. 15 years. Sarah Boone turned it down. She wanted her day in court. The trial of Sarah Boone began on October the 14th, 2024. Jury selection was completed, and a jury of 6 with 8 alternates was sworn in. Opening statements were delivered on October 18th. Prosecutor William J. stood before that jury and said, in measured, deliberate language, "This defendant zipped Jorge Torres shut in a suitcase. She was able to do this because, at the time of his death, he weighed 103 pounds. She did this with a malicious intent to punish him, and then she went up to sleep and left him to take his final breaths on this earth, alone." Defense attorney James Owens took a completely different angle. He told the jury that Sarah Boone was not a murderer. She was a survivor. She had suffered years of physical violence at the hands of Jorge Torres, documented, arrested, bailed out, repeat, and that on the night of February 23rd, she had acted out of fear. The defense, in other words, had pivoted from accident to battered spouse syndrome, because the accident story didn't survive the videos. What the prosecution built. The prosecution called 14 witnesses over the course of the trial. Law enforcement officers testified to what they found when they arrived at the apartment. Crime scene investigator Melissa Raffgarden showed the jury the suitcase, the actual physical suitcase, brought into the courtroom as evidence. The medical examiner explained asphyxiation, explained what happens to the body when the oxygen inside a sealed space is slowly replaced by carbon dioxide with each breath. Jorge's brother Juan testified about their relationship, about the call he'd had with Jorge shortly before his death, with Sarah Boone yelling in the background that Jorge was choking her. Boone's ex-husband Brian testified that Sarah had called him before 911. Reserve Deputy Jessica Ramirez Delgado and Corporal John Alden testified about previous domestic incidents they had responded to at that apartment. And then the jury saw the videos from Boone's phone. Not described, not summarized, played. When those videos were shown during closing arguments on October 25th, family members of Jorge Torres attending trial for the first time that day, some had to leave the room. They were audibly emotional, because it was the first time many of them had heard Jorge's voice in that context, heard him begging, heard him pleading. Prosecutor Cacciatore pointed at the suitcase in the courtroom. Jorge Torres was murdered in this box. Sarah Boone takes the stand. On Tuesday of the trial's second week, defense attorney James Owens called his first witness, Sarah Boone. She testified for approximately 5 hours. She described the day in detail, the chores, the wine, the porch, the game. She described seeing Jorge climb into the suitcase, trying to make himself flat. She said they were both laughing. She said she zipped him up. She even demonstrated, using the actual suitcase, wearing gloves at the judge's instruction, how she had zipped it closed. And when the prosecution asked her why, knowing a man was inside, knowing he was asking to be released, knowing he said he couldn't breathe, why she had not simply unzipped the bag, she said, "I wanted him to try to understand how I felt, so maybe he could progress and be a better person." Read that again if you need to. She wanted him to understand how she felt by leaving him in a sealed suitcase. She then said that she had been afraid of what he would do when he got out, that he'd been threatening her from inside, that when his hand emerged through the zipper, she genuinely believed he was going to attack her. So she hit his hand with a bat. She said she was never trying to kill him, and then she went to bed. The prosecution was not gentle in cross-examination. They had a question with a yes or no answer. "Did you do anything to help Jorge Torres escape the predicament you zipped him up in?" Boone's answer, "No." The defense's expert witnesses. The defense called a psychologist, Dr. Julie Harper, licensed for 22 years, to explain battered spouse syndrome to the jury. Dr. Harper explained that someone suffering from the condition can develop what is called learned helplessness, a state where trauma has so conditioned a person's responses that they react in ways that seem irrational or extreme to outside observers. She explained that a person's experiencing battered spouse syndrome might fear harm and react in ways that aren't understandable to people who haven't lived inside that fear. However, due to repeated objections from the prosecution, Dr. Harper was not permitted to speak specifically about Sarah Boone's case. She could only discuss the diagnosis in hypothetical terms. The defense also introduced video footage from Boone's phone, different footage than the prosecution had shown, that depicted Jorge Torres in the apartment, striking a television with a baseball bat. The argument was clear. Jorge Torres was violent. The documented history proved it. Sarah Boone had lived with that violence for years, and on February 23, 2020, she had acted, however devastatingly, out of the terror that had become her normal. The prosecution's response was equally clear. Sarah Boone had never once mentioned self-defense when first questioned by authorities, not at the scene, not in the interrogation room, not in any of her initial statements. The self-defense story appeared later, after the videos, after the arrest, after 4 years and 8 attorneys. On October 25, 2024, Day 10 of the trial, closing arguments concluded. Judge Michael Kranick sent the jury to deliberate. He told them to prepare for what might be a long night. If they couldn't reach a unanimous decision by 10 p.m., deliberations would stop and resume Monday. It did not take that long. In less than 2 hours, the jury returned, guilty, second-degree murder. The jury had rejected the battered spouse defense entirely. They had watched the videos. They had heard the testimony. They had looked at the actual suitcase sitting in that courtroom. And in under 2 hours, they had reached a unanimous verdict. Members of Jorge Torres' family, who had sat in that courtroom for the first time on closing arguments day, were present. Some wept. Sentencing, December 2nd, 2024. On December 2nd, 2024, Sarah Boone appeared before Judge Kranick for sentencing. Before the sentence was delivered, Jorge's family spoke. His mother, Blanca Torres, stood up and said, "She not only killed my son, she killed a father, a brother, an uncle. Sometimes, when I look out the window, I'm waiting for him to come and say, 'Mom, I love you.'" His daughter said her father was a hidden gem stolen by evilness. His sister Victoria said, "Sarah has caused a lifetime of pain." And then, quietly, she said that she can't close a suitcase all the way anymore. Sarah Boone also spoke. She described years of abuse at Jorge's hands. She said he had kicked, punched, spit on, raped, stabbed, and choked her. And then she said something that has stayed with people who covered this trial. "I forgive myself for falling in love with a monster, and no matter how grotesque he may become, I still loved him, hoped and forgave." She concluded with an apology to the Torres family. "I hope that everyone can forgive me, the Torres family most of all." Judge Kranick sentenced Sarah Boone to life in prison. No possibility of parole. Sarah Boone filed a motion for a new trial immediately after conviction. It was denied. She is now on her 13th attorney, this time for her appeal, and has reportedly complained that her appellate counsel won't communicate with her. Some things don't change, but I don't want to end this story there. Because this case isn't just a story about a crime, it's a story about something deeper. Something we don't talk about enough when we talk about domestic violence cases. Jorge Torres was arrested 4 times for battering Sarah Boone. That is documented. That is real. That is not in dispute. And Sarah Boone bailed him out 4 times. Every single time, without exception. Why does a person do that? Why does someone bail out the person who hurts them again and again when every rational signal in their life is screaming to run? Psychologists have studied this for decades. The answer isn't weakness, it's not stupidity. It's not even love. Not exactly. It's something that forms when fear and attachment become so tangled together that you can't separate them anymore. The person who hurts you is also the person who makes you feel safe. And you keep returning because the alternative, being alone, being without them, feels even more terrifying than the violence. That's what battered spouse syndrome looks like from the inside. And here's the uncomfortable part of this story. The part that makes it genuinely complicated. Sarah Boone may have experienced real abuse. The documentation suggests she did, and it may have genuinely warped her perception, her responses, her ability to think clearly in a crisis. None of that, not one single part of it, is a justification for what she did. It doesn't explain laughing, it doesn't explain filming, it doesn't explain going to sleep, it doesn't explain the baseball bat. There is a line between a trauma response and a decision. And on the night of February 23rd, 2020, Sarah Boone crossed it. She made choices. Deliberate, filmed, documented choices. And the words that came out of her mouth while Jorge Torres begged for his life weren't the words of someone having a trauma response. They were the words of someone settling a score. That's what I feel like when you cheat on me. That's what you do when you choke me. Those are not fear responses, those are grievances, itemized and delivered to a man who couldn't move. The jury saw it. 6 people looked at everything, all of it, and they came back in under 2 hours. That's how clear it was. Jorge Torres Jr. was born on February 13, 1978. He had 3 children who loved him, a mother who still stands at the window waiting for him, a sister who can't close the suitcase all the way anymore. He was not a perfect man. The record shows that. His family acknowledged it publicly. He wasn't perfect, but he was a good son, his mother said. He died at 42, inside a blue suitcase in an apartment in Winter Park, Florida on a February night, when the air inside that sealed bag got thinner with every breath he took. And the woman holding the camera laughed. Sarah Boone is 47 years old. She will spend the rest of her life in the Orange County jail system in Florida, where she has been since the morning of February the 25th, 2020. She rejected 15 years. She got forever. That's this case. That's the Mind of Sarah Boone. If this is your first time watching Mind of Malice, welcome. We're going to be exploring more stories like this one, not just the what, the why, the psychology underneath the crime, the moments where ordinary lives went irreversibly dark. Make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment with the case you want us to cover next, and until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and never stop asking why.